think we're ready to get started.
Great. Thank you very much, Caitlin. Please join me in thanking Caitlin for making sure that these kind of webinars run smoothly. She's often behind the scenes, but without her and without Carol, who couldn't join us today, we wouldn't be able to do these types of things. Hi, folks. My name is Jim Yu, and I am the co-chair of the Exchange and Engage Committee of the United Way Next. I'm also on the board, and we thank you for joining us today. Today is the session called Unlock the Power of AI for You and Your Nonprofit and Your Endeavors. We're excited about learning more from our speakers. In my role at United Way Worldwide, we're really following and looking at how we can use AI for our work as well as for the program that I'm involved in at the Emergency Food and Shelter Program. Our Chief Technology Officer is having discussions with various staff and putting together kind of policies and procedures on how we might use AI at Worldwide. But I'm really excited to learn from our two speakers today, Dr. Patricia Clary and a colleague of mine, Jasmine Garcia. And we're excited to hear from you both. So let me quickly turn it over to you for introductions.
Hi, everyone. I'll kick us off. My name is Jasmine Garcia. I was with United Way Worldwide for almost 7 years, and absolutely am so passionate about the network. And so it's an honor to be here with you all. I have a background in operations, so my passion is always how do we find ways to bring efficiencies into our organizations and really let us do the work that we want to do, minimizing some of that admin. And I found AI to be a great tool to let us do that. And so as I've started to explore, I've learned quite a bit about AI. I'm definitely still in the intermediate to novice phase. So I hope to learn from everyone in this group as well when we get into the conversation component with questions and answers. But I'm really looking forward to the conversation and sharing so we can continue to drive this great work forward. With that, I'll pass it over to Dr. Patricia Clary.
Hi, everyone. I just go by Pat. I'm from Horseshoe Bend, Arkansas. I'm a United Way professional from loan executive. All of my experiences in Southern and Central California, but from loan executive to president, CEO of a United Way in the Central Valley. And I am I drank the Kool-Aid, I guess they say. But once I left the United Way, I stayed involved in the nonprofit sector, and I've had a very good career for over 40 years, just serving the greater good, to be honest. And most recently, not quite 2 years ago, I graduated with my PhD in organizational leadership. And I looked at the nonprofit sector and how do you really bring philanthropic value to the work that you're doing through convening leadership. And so now I'm here back with United Way Next. I love the organization. I appreciate the leadership of Carol, Jim, and so many others that lead this organization, and certainly the support of Caitlin. And Jasmine and I are new. Carol asked us to partner together on this presentation, and so it's been a pleasure to get to know her and work with her. And like her, I am just looking forward to being with you today and learning together and moving our organizations forward and the work that we're called to do.
Thank you so much, Pat. I will get us kicked off. Let me share my screen here and we'll jump right in together. Okay. So before we start off, I'd like to do a couple of housekeeping items. The first is, of course, making sure that we have this session be interactive. At any point during this presentation, if you have a question or a comment, please feel free to either use the raise your hand function or type into the chat. We want to make sure that we're covering everything and really just having an engaging and fun time. We also ask that you please bring thoughtful questions and respect the opinions of others. And my first one that I forgot to say, please mute your mics. That way we can all hear each other and won't have any background noise. So thank you in advance for muting your mics. And with those housekeeping items out of the way, we will continue on. So today what we're going to focus on is a poll. First thing we want to do is to gauge your familiarity with the AI tools. After that, we're going to give you a quick overview of the AI fundamentals and future trends, which will lead us into our discussion that will include exploring crucial risk management practices and a live demonstration using ChatGPT. One thing we do want to say is that ChatGPT is just one of many AI tools that you can leverage. We've chosen that one, but if you have a preference, Google Bard, let me see how many others are there. Google Bard, Microsoft Bing, Jasper, UChat. I'm sure there are so many more out there. Just know that this is just one tool out of many that you can leverage in your AI journey. And then at the very end, what we're going to do is wrap up with a couple of tips and resources, and then open the floor for any other questions. So with that, we'll jump in. What we want to talk about right now are the foundations and future of AI. AI is not just an IT initiative, it's an enterprise initiative. What we really need to make sure is that the executive team and staff are involved in really thoughtfully developing how we're going to engage with AI. What zones will we play in? What zones will we not play in? Most businesses in the next few years, even currently, really are in the internal space. So if we're looking at this chart, they're looking at internal usage of AI. And some of us will use external frontward-facing uses of AI. But today we're really going to focus on that internal aspect. So how do we make our day-to-day jobs easier? How do we create more efficiencies in our organization? But know that there are so many ways that we can leverage this tool in a more strategic way, or even for offices that are more public and forward-facing. So when we think about that every day, we're thinking back office improvements. Some of our software engineers might be able to use that. I know we don't have a lot, but if we had some, there would be software engineers in our teams who could use AI to summarize case files. Grant writing is something that all of us do. And so we can leverage AI to help us create different proposals or edit our proposals. And we think of it more as a thought partner. They can help us do SWOT analyses. They can help with strategic planning, data analysis, even human resources when we're thinking about policy creation. So later in the presentation, we will explain a few of those ways that you can leverage ChatGPT and show some of those examples. But the future of AI is tremendous, and it goes beyond that. And we need to think today, at a minimum, we need to be leveraging at an everyday level, because the future is so prosperous. There's so much opportunity that we don't want to get left behind. So before we jump in, we'd like to ask you to take a poll. There's going to be 3 questions on this. The first is on your screen right now, and it's, are you using AI? The second and third are going to appear on the chat function, in the chat function, and we would love for you to enter in your responses to those 2 questions, which is, if you are using AI, how are you using it? And what are your concerns about using AI? And I'm seeing on my screen right now that about 59% of us, now 60, are using AI in some capacity. And I am not actually able to see the chat right now, so I may ask Caitlin or Pat to see what's coming in the chat. I'd love to hear what's coming through.
Yeah, some people are using it for writing proposals, Grammarly, job descriptions, board meetings, help with marketing and creating emails.
Fabulous. note-taking. There are actually quite a few note-taking tools as well that will generate notes based off of your meetings and send you summaries, which saves a lot of time. Of course, you do need to go back and review those notes to make sure that nothing was missed or needs to be added, but it's a great way to make sure that you're capturing critical information during a meeting as well. Perfect. I'm going to stop my share for now and go back to, oh, did I stop share? Sorry, I did not hit stop share. There we are. Perfect. And I'm going to turn it over to Pat to continue on with our conversation and bring us into the next section.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you for the introduction and for the foundations and the future of AI. Based on what I'm seeing in the chat, some of you are just beginning, you're novices, but others of you are very advanced in the use of this technology that's ours. I was introduced to Chat GPT in particular from my webmaster. He's like, you need to understand how you can use this particular technology for what I wanted to accomplish in writing in particular and creating blogs. And so he walked me through it. And as soon as he walked me through it, I was like sold. But like so many of us, I didn't understand all of the nuances of Chat GPT, and I'm still learning because it changes so rapidly and every single day. So kudos to you that are way ahead of the learning curve here. I believe it's only going to get better for us as we become more comfortable with these different platforms and how they serve us. So I'll share my screen. And what we're going to look at is the first screen that we'll look at is everyday applications. I'm not really going to go into the everyday applications because you've already put that in the chat. And you know that you know how you're using it right now. But what I will point out is that every part of this presentation, Jasmine and I created by using Chat GPT, from our agenda to the timing to what topic should we really cover. We used up here, if you can see my screen, the P on each one of these slides stands for prompt. So the prompt is where you enter in the information you're seeking, in our case, Chat GPT. So I entered in, how is AI being used in daily activities? And it creates this list of ways that you can use Chat GPT. So virtual assistants, I mean, I don't know what I would do without my Alexa. She helps me with many things throughout the day, from weather reports to when's my next appointment to remember to get your package out of the mailbox. So, and each one of these different applications is just becomes very familiar, I guess. Initially, it's not so familiar, but then as you use it and get to understand how it works and the purpose, becomes more familiar, and therefore we're not quite as intimidated to seek the help of AI. So from everyday applications, we then went to ask the question, how is AI being used in the nonprofit sector? And again, this was not something that I generated or that Jasmine generated, but as we put this question into Chat GPT, then these items came up. These were only a few samples: fundraising and donor management. I'm going to click on this first question here. And I am going to enter into my Chat GPT, how can I use fundraising techniques for financial, or in, you don't have to have it perfect, but I'm kind of that way, financial stability programming. And then it starts to generate the answer. So it will tell me, and I have to wait a minute because it's going to give me as many as it wants to. I could have just asked it, tell me 3 ways or tell me 5 ways. but it will go through and it will give me a number of ways that I can use fundraising techniques and financial stability programming. So if I want to take, for instance, if identify funding sources is of interest to me, because each one of these responses has the ability to take us down what I would consider to be a rabbit hole. This is another way you can use ChatGPT and generate more knowledge than you really want to know, but you might find one or two things in here that you really want to go a little bit deeper. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to say, can you provide me with some funding sources? And I'll just hit return. And it automatically knows that I'm talking about funding sources for financial stability. And it could be anything. It could be the arts, it could be the environment, it could be food scarcity, it could be trafficking, it could be any of the social issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis in our United Ways or that our partners deal with. So then I can look, if I want to go even further, I could take number 8 and I could just simply say, can you give me illustrations of number 8? And it will begin to tell me who some of these, who the crowdfunding companies might be and what they might be looking for. So that's just one illustration of how we can use this at every level in our organizations. Jasmine already talked about some like human resources. I mean, everybody is now, not everyone, but quite a few people now are running, you know, your resume through some kind of artificial intelligence to even see if your resume fits what they're looking for. So again, the prompt that we put in, how is AI being used in the nonprofit sector? We could do the same thing with any one of these things on the screen and be able to dig deeper or broader as it stimulates our thinking and our creativity. In the slide deck that we prepared, there are examples of AI programs, and if you save the chat, several of you mentioned other programs that are not on this screen. So you'd be able to go back through that chat and identify some other AI programs that might be of use to your particular organization and what you're seeking. And I'm not going to go through these because if you have the slide deck, they are outlined in the notes page and you can go through. This was our disclaimer, is that we're not promoting any one particular company or AI, but we wanted to give you an idea of how you might begin to consider the use of AI. So for donor, this will be an example. So AI and donor stewardship. Again, I put in the ChatGPT and asked for some ChatGPT prompts for advancement professionals. It could have been prompts for any other professional that you have that you're working with. So I'm going to click on this link. This goes to a website called Evertrue, and it just says the big book of ChatGPT prompts for advancement professionals. What I really liked about this is that it says we've compiled a list of 50 prompts that you can enter into ChatGPT to spark creativity, enhance communication, and ultimately raise more funds for your institution. I really like the fact that what it does is it sparks your creativity. What ChatGPT generates doesn't mean that's what we have to embrace or accept. We want to take our knowledge base and add it to what ChatGPT is producing for us. And so I really like that statement. So if I scroll down on this particular site, it gives 50 prompts you can just put into ChatGPT. So this one is draft a persuasive email subject line for our upcoming campaign focused on. So if I'm in marketing, I like this prompt because I can fill in the blank with anything. I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to copy this. But I could also just as easily go down and ask for help me create a script for personalized video message from our president. Now, wouldn't that be cool? Because then it would generate it. You could tweak it to what you understand about your organization. Then you could give it to your president. They could tweak it and you could go forward that way. So I'm going to go back down. I'm going to go back to Chat GPT, and I'm simply going to paste in there, draft a persuasive email. And I saw in our chat box that someone actually uses Chat GPT for this. But this is an email subject line. So it says, empower financial futures, join us in building economic resilience together. So now I'm going to ask it to create an email to complement the subject line. And I'm going to just hit, and that's exactly what it will do. It will create the email that then is going to talk about, in this case, empowering financial futures, because I was working in the financial stability space. And so it remembers what I do and what I'm working on. And so it goes back and it draws up the latest. So it drew up the financial stability that I was working on. So it created the email, and then it created here's how you can get involved. And again, you take this information and you massage it for what you need. Now, if I go back to the PowerPoint right here, and all of these on this particular slide are just right out of that Ever True, the big book of chat prompts for advancement. I could put that back into Chat GPT and ask it to give me other illustrations, and it would. So then we go from there to, we talk about confronting AI risks because it's something we're not familiar with. And there are a lot of issues around using Chat GPT, and Jasmine's going to talk a little bit about those. But I put in, again, the prompt. What are the pros and cons of AI in the nonprofit sector? And I think asking the right question is the key. Think about what you're thinking about, and then how do you put what you're thinking about as a question into the prompt? So navigating the pitfalls, if you click on this link, it will take you to cybersecurity, data privacy, and ethics. Or you could look at empowering responsible AI, which I believe, Jim talked a little bit about that. And even all of these is they're looking at AI in the United Way worldwide space. And nonprofits and AI, what boards need to know. This is important. So I'll click on this one. It'll take us to a company called Board Effects. And again, this came right out of Chat GPT. What it did is it saved me doing all that research. And I'm a researcher by design now. I'm certified in research methods and methodology. But I'll tell you what, this just helps the process so much. So what do boards need to know? And it takes me right through the benefits of generative AI for nonprofits, integrating AI into operations, communication, customer service, data analysis. I could take any one of these areas where I might have a red flag or be concerned, and I could say, in my AI, I could say, could you tell me more about how to integrate fundraising into our operations and define our what my operations looks like? And it will take me to that deeper level. So this is just boards, how you train your board members, and it goes all the way down. Now, this particular organization is an organization that is looking for nonprofits to help and to be paid for their services, but not all of the organizations are doing that. But there's an awful lot of good information on these types of sites. I want to go back for just a minute to right here, and I want to put in here, I just want to show you one more thing. I think I have about 2 more minutes. I want to show you the scope. So if I want to talk about financial stability in the state of Arkansas, I can say, help me, or I can say, hang on 1 minute. What are the 5 best practices for designing a financial stability program in the state of Arkansas? It could be any state, it could be any community. And it will tell me what best practices I should be looking at for, and these would of course be across the board, but what I should be looking at. And I could say, I could take it further. I could say, how does my governor support financial literacy initiatives? One nice thing about it is you don't have to really know how to spell. Grammar doesn't have to be correct. Sentence doesn't have to be correct. And so it will tell me this is how the governor can work and support, or it could be your congressman or your local authorities. And it will take me all the way down. If I could say, what is the poverty rate in Arkansas? I can go very, very deep. I can do a deeper dive, and it will tell me it was around 16.2%. And with that, I'm going to, in just a second, go back to Jasmine, because the important thing is that 16%, I have to know that that's a true number. So I have to be responsible enough to go back and say, this is a true number. And so therefore, I can then use that number, that statistic, but I have to know that statistic for myself. So with that, I believe Jasmine is going to take us to the next step. I'm going to stop sharing. She will take us to the next phase of this organization as we talk about risk mitigation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Pat. So let me share my screen one more time with everyone. I did call out a few things from the chat that are a great segue into what we're going to talk about, which was some of the risks that we're concerned about, whether it's accuracy of the data, whether it is what's going to happen to your data once it's input into the system, plagiarism, ethics, etc. So these are all real concerns. And by looking at policy creation, we can really start to get ahead of that and figure out how best to utilize this and train our staffs as well to prepare for AI. So how will your organization adopt AI? It's critical that leadership determine how AI will be leveraged and then create these policies with your entire team. We also recommend that the board of directors be included, which is why Pat shared that great overview of how to educate your board of directors about what AI is. Because if you don't do that education step before and really understand that AI is a thought partner, it has to be used appropriately, but it's not meant to replace your staff, nor the creativity that comes from your staff, but rather to give us all a leg up and to be more efficient and spend more time doing the work that we really want to be doing. This decision, we can't tell you how it is that you should use AI in your organization. That is going to be dependent on the risk that your board of directors and your teams are willing to take. But we really feel that there is so many low risk activities that we've described, whether it's using it in your donor stewardship information, in some of your grant writing, in your day-to-day activities, data analyses that don't have very sensitive data, that really worth having this conversation and learning and preparing yourself for the adoption of AI. If you're thinking that creating more policies and education sound like a lot of work, we are actually going to use ChatGPT to create a policy right now. And let me share my screen here. And it will give you a baseline. So similar to what Pat showed us with the other prompts, what we can do is just say, copy it here. just one moment. What should be included in an AI policy for a nonprofit organization? If you put this in at a high level, it's going to give you something that gives you all of the components about ethical principles and values, data privacy and governance, which a lot of you put in the chat as that's one of your concerns about the ethical implications. These are things that we need to set forth before we adopt it and make sure that all of our staff members are educated on how to use AI in their daily work. But you can also go a step further and, of course, create a policy. So this here would be if you want to go from the ground up and not work off of a baseline, something created from AI. These would be some of the recommended categories that you would need to discuss with your board and your teams to create that policy. If, however, I prefer to have a baseline of something written, you can ask it to create a policy for AI adoption, and then you could, of course, describe your organization. For United Way Worldwide, we've mentioned is to, let me pull the exact mission word for word. There we go. Seeks to improve the lives and mobilizing power. Here we are. But if you put in your own mission statement, then it's going to craft a policy that uses the data from your mission statement into the policy itself. And the more information you provide into the system, the more customized it will become. So the more time you spend really educating the system, the better the quality of the data. The more high level your prompts are, the more generic the information will be. And so that's why we really recommend playing with it, because your first thing that you enter into ChatGPT or whichever AI tool you're using won't be of the best quality. It still requires you to teach it to work together to make sure that it is producing content that's relevant to you and your organization. So here you can see, if we copy and pasted this into Word, what I would do as a next step is just start to review this to see, does this align with my organization? What is missing? What do I need to flesh out more? And then, similar to what Pat showed us early on, we'll just add more questions in. So that way ChatGPT could continue to flesh out some of this. And then I'd take it offline and work with my teams. So I would say at least 60 to 70% of the work is done by ChatGPT. And then the rest is really, how do we want to customize this to make sure that it fits our organizations? So that's really why I'm not too afraid that AI is going to take our jobs, because it doesn't know those levels of details. It doesn't have that ability to have those hard conversations with our teams, with our board of directors to help with this change management. That all comes to us. But it does give us a great baseline for what we need to talk about and how to draft that content. I'm going to go back here.
Jasmine, can I say something?
Yes, please do.
You you just stirred a comment, a thought for me, and that is, I have a love-hate relationship with ChatGPT because it spits out such good stuff, and I think, why didn't I think of that myself? Or how come I can't write as well as it can? But it's taking that whole conglomeration of everything that's out there, and it's bringing it together into a synthesized thought, and it's putting it on my screen, and then I have to take it and do exactly what you said, massage it and work with the team. And I just want to thank you for reminding me of that relationship that I have with this very inanimate object that becomes like my friend, but they have to sit in the corner every now and then. So thank you.
Yes, I feel the same. Sometimes it spits things out, and I think that is so good. I wish I could write that. We're teaching each other. The screen, ChatGPT and myself, we're working together. And so with that, I'd like to share a couple of these tips and resources that we have. So as we keep saying over and over, and the reason I just keep saying this is it took me a really long time to understand that AI is our partner, and we can't expect it just to spit out final content. And at first, that was honestly very frustrating for me, because I thought, why would I put my information into this system if it's not going to be done? Well, because we humans have a lot to add, a lot of value, and the need for customization. So the more you train your ChatGPT, your AI, the better the content is going to get. The other part is how you train. So you have to be a good teacher. The prompts that Pat showed us earlier, they're very clear, they're concise, they allow the system to really understand what you're getting at. And then it's up to you to say, make this more professional, make this, have a different tone. Or I hear a lot of people get frustrated by the repetitive language or some of the phrases that it consistently uses. You can tell the system, do not use these words, do not use these phrases, something that doesn't fit you. Or you can say, these are common phrases that I like to use, or these are common phrases from my organization. I'd like you to use them instead of X. And then it would train the system to use your content instead of the generic content that it provides. So really, we need to also learn how to use the system and figure out what our preferences are, because the more feedback we give to the system, the better the content. And then after that, of course, we have some resources towards the end where you can see additional prompts. What Pat showed you is essential as well. And I'd like to pause right there we have one more final poll. We didn't want to give too many examples and go through the rabbit hole, but there were some really great comments in the chat about how you all use your data. And I'm wondering if someone might be brave enough to come off mute to share their experience in grant writing or something that could be really beneficial to all of us in terms of how they've leveraged AI. Go ahead, Pat, I see you've unmuted.
Jasmine, as they do, maybe unshare your screen.
Yes.
I don't mind jumping in. I will apologize. We have roofers on our building today, so it might get really loud, and I'll just mute myself in midstream. But one of the ways that in grant writing specifically that has been really beneficial is taking large pools of content and helping it distill down, especially when you have super tight character restrictions. So for example, during our CDS process last year, when we were doing congressionally directed spending, one of our senators had very long responses and the other senator had very short responses. And so we were starting with the larger one first. And then when we distilled that down, it was really beneficial to be able to take that content, the data, all the rich information we were trying to distill and be able to summarize that for the other senator's request. So it can be used to generate content, or it can be used to have content that you already have in your documentation and your other grant requests that you've already written, and kind of translate it or distill it down into smaller characters or expand if you need to.
I love that example, Matt. It can be so painful to be playing with your word count for hours trying to get everything to the right amount. So that's a really easy win, right?
Yeah,
of how you can condense.
It saved a ton of time, and it is super frustrating when you have something you really like the wording on, and then someone says, well, you got to summarize that into like half the words. So it was great, and it really did spit out the content, and you had to play with it and tweak it a little bit and prompt it a few times, but it got it to a really usable format that then you could just save a lot of time.
Fabulous. Thank you for that example. One other way that made me think of the inverse is sometimes I'll have a question on a grant report or something that I know I want to talk about these 4 things, and I'll just write 4 bullets of the content that I want included and the prompt. So I'll say, here's the prompt, please include these 4 things, and it will generate a first draft for me to review. So the inverse of that, both being able to work on grant reports. Thank you. And anyone else from the group, we'd really love to leverage your collective experience as well. Carrie, go right ahead.
Hi, I can share. We recently used, I'm working with an association that has 3,200 members. And so a question came up about, we were just going into details of member retention and looking at what individuals were listing as to why they left if they didn't renew their membership. And so the organization thought, well, wouldn't this be great? It's over 50 years old, and could we look back at all the data and see what are the reasons of why people left? And I made the comment of not wanting to maybe invest staff time into that or how far back to really dig into that data. And I had a staff member that was really comfortable using ChatGPT and was able to put in a massive export that had thousands of people's responses. And it was primed to search for like the top 10 reasons. And within a couple of minutes, we had a report that said these are the 10 reasons that people have said that they, left the organization. And so we're now able to look at that data and say, what things are within our control and what things are out of our control. If people are leaving like for their own personal reasons or financial reasons or whatever it might be. I was floored because I thought that would be like a project that would just take a massive amount of time. And so it's really opened my eyes to like, okay, what other ways can we embrace this technology where we can get these results and then, let staff use that to interpret the results. So I thought that was I don't know, very eye-opening for me, if that's helpful for others to hear.
It's so helpful, and it's such a great use of staff time, right? Because you're letting the people do what they're best at, which is interpreting the data and using it to create great solutions, but not spending the time analyzing and maybe cleaning up the data as well to have the analysis. So thank you. That was a great story. Patrick, go right ahead.
Yeah, hi, this is awesome. Just a couple things from my point of view regarding word count. There's sometimes a challenge in the opposite direction too, and you need a really long document. ChatGPT is limited in how many words it will give you. So the way that I found around that and is recommended by many is ask ChatGPT first to give you an outline of the document. And once it gives you that outline in 5 points, and you can say, give me a 5-point outline, you can then say, now write the full narrative for section 1. And one at a time, you can ask it to write the full narrative for each section. And it's a little more copying and pasting, but it gets you the length of document that you need. So that was just something that came to mind when you all were talking about word count. The second thing is you asked about concerns earlier, and I put accuracy. I have found, for example, when I've asked for certain citations, artificial citations, like references that look they're APA, but they're to documents or books that don't exist, because I've looked them up and researched them. So what I've found is that if you go to the research GPT, in Chat GPT, if you go to explore GPTs, there's a ton of them. There's images and videos and these different things. And there's a research one that's just designed for research that gives you much better access to accurate references. So I've just learned to double check when it gives you facts and definitely when it gives you citations.
Exactly. Patrick, I use the outline method all the time. I will always ask for an outline first, and then I do exactly as you say. I'll go section by section. And if I need to, I'll break the sections down even further, depending on how deep I want to dive into that particular section. That's an excellent point. So I just learned something. I didn't know there was a research ChatGPT, because citations is not one of ChatGPT's favorite things. I always write my own citations because I know exactly what I want. So thank you for that tidbit.
And I would love to see everyone have that in their AI policy, that all, after using ChatGPT to produce anything, before this gets sent out, it has to be citations checked. There can be some bare minimums to make sure that we are putting out content that's accurate and has proper sourcing. So that could be a great part there. And I wanted to just call out from Ashley in the chat. She also uses it to highlight where there are holes or missing information, or there needs to be clarified in the documents that she's writing. So a great place to call out what's missing. And Britt, I see your hand up. Over to you.
Yeah, hi. So I just wanted to say that it's not ChatGPT, but I used another AI tool in order to help create a draft for lapsed donors and to mention within the letter smart ways of giving, so stocks and DAFs and so on, to kind of feed that in. And it also takes the organization's website, so it's pulling in all sorts of stuff about our mission and values into that. And one of the things that we're doing is using that as a draft in conjunction with mail merge to pull in things from an Excel spreadsheet specific to the individual. Like, thank you for your last donation of $1,000 in, May 2021. Da, da, da. So it's much more specific to each individual.
Fabulous.
Jasmine, I would like to answer David Nicole's question,
Please.
but I'd like to do it by sharing my screen. So everyone hang tight with me, because David, I had the exact same question. He asked, do you need to cite ChatGPT? And you'll notice on most of our slides, we did do the citation for ChatGPT because we took it directly off of ChatGPT. So David, I was interested to know that myself, because I've been trained to cite anybody if it's not me. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT, do I need to cite you for this information? So this is what it says. You don't need to cite me specifically, since I'm here to assist you in generating ideas and advice. However, if you're using information or concepts that you've learned from our conversation and incorporating them into a formal document or research paper, it's good practice to cite relevant sources according to the citation style you're using. If you've gathered insights from multiple sources, it's customary to acknowledge them in your bibliography or reference section. So I know that, so that's what ChatGPT says. You don't have to, however, it's good practice, to cite them if that information is new to you and you're specifically pulling it from them. So I thought that was interesting. I know as a lot of times I'll take a paragraph or a thought or a sentence or two, and by the time I'm finished with it, it doesn't read anything like ChatGPT generated it, because it's my own thoughts. I've rearranged and rethought what it generated, and so therefore I'm not citing it. But if it's a direct cite and I know it's not from me, then I am citing it. And I think that becomes a personal decision, frankly, or to be written into your organizational policy manual, how you're going to handle that in your organizations. It's a great question.
Thank you. Any other examples from the group? I'm seeing some highly effective in synthesizing and summarizing qualitative data. There was also a quick request to ask it to do something with data. I don't have any data prepared right now, but we could send something out after the call. Unless someone else already has something pulled that they can share, I'll be sure to share something as a follow-up so we can see how you would analyze some of that data, but I don't have anything prepared at the moment. So I'll make sure to follow up.
Well, I was thinking, Jim, I was thinking, I've forgotten who it is, who did the Carrie. I was thinking Carrie would be an excellent follow-up presenter to this topic in taking those 12,000 past responses and her team analyzing it. That's excellent. Because I'm sure we all have that data that's sitting there. Like, what do we do now with this data? And we didn't do anything with it in the first place because we didn't have time. But now there's a way that we could use that. So I think that's excellent.
Matt?
The good thing about Carrie is that Carrie also serves on our Engage and Exchange committee.
There you go.
Sorry, Jasmine, what were you going to say?
Oh, I said Matt. I think Matt had another example.
Sort of an example. I mean, certainly from the example side, marketing and looking at content to target certain audiences. So whether that be an email, Facebook flyer, or a post, some flyer that you're printing for an event, it can really be beneficial to look at the content and the audience. But beyond that, just when you're talking about the data example, I went to an event last week. It was actually more geared towards the business sector, but around AI. One of the things that they were really harping on is if you're uploading data, to de-identify it. So not including people's email addresses or physical addresses, phone numbers, whatever it might be, to think about if you're posting it or uploading it to ChatGPT or to any other platform, that if you wouldn't say post it to your email to some donor with that information, then you don't want to do that there. You can certainly upload the data, but de-identify it, put a number instead of a person's name, take that step of scrubbing the file before you upload it, where it can still generate the results and pull some of the content you're looking for, but without having the security or privacy concerns that I think we might have and might go against our policies that we're all working on.
Yes, thank you so much for clearly calling that out. Yes, we need to make sure that we are not entering in that personal data into these systems. Many of our states are starting to have increased data privacy laws. And if you're working with any international counterparts, you have GDPR as well in the EU. So I definitely would recommend to remove any of that personal information to make sure we're protecting everyone's identity. And then if I understood Britt correctly, that you could use a mail merge function or something offline to where you've created a template with ChatGPT that has, a space for all of that personal information. But that step happens offline, and that's just to protect everyone's data. Fabulous. Well, I'm looking and we have about 5 minutes left, and we have one last poll that we would like to take you through. So I'm going to share my screen one more time to enable our poll. And that poll is going to be, a lot of us already do, but for those of you who don't, do you plan on leveraging AI in your organizations? And then we'd love to see in the chat, what opportunities do you see to leverage AI that you might not be doing right now? So depending on how you already engage with AI, you may have very in-depth answers here, or it could just be to start using it again, to start using it in your everyday world. So we'd love to just see what areas interest you most, and we can also follow up with some more resources to support that. And it sounds like, yes, we've got everybody wants to use it, which is great. We hit our goal. And I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here as well so I can see what opportunities and ways in the chat that you all would like to use this in the future.
So
Oh, and
I'll read
Clary,
a couple of them, Jasmine. I think it could be if we plan to continue using it, one area we're looking into is accounting, a finance system. It's interesting. And then I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
oh, no, you were doing great. I was just reading through the research GPT. Some people are looking at Microsoft Copilot, customer service response. Yes, Jim, I think that's going to be so interesting with chatbots for some of our organizations and how we might be able to respond to common inquiries, but giving people a more personalized experience. Graphic design. I like that one. I have not yet delved into the graphic design component, but it's something I'm really interested in as well. And then,
go ahead, Jasmine. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, great point from Ashley about the biggest opportunity is to get more staff to utilize it and understand how to do so in a productive and ethical way. And I could not agree more, because if you can get everyone using it on a basic level, your productivity is just going to soar. A basic level where everyone has the same understanding and norms, and then you can build on it and just continue to be more productive and use it in new ways.
I was going to say, I use it. I work with a global team from 6 countries, and we are in the process of writing a book on the nonprofit sector in the global community. And we use ChatGPT to help us create the outline. We've already presented together, and we've done quite a bit of extensive research in this area. But we're now writing a book. We've been asked to write a book by a publisher, and so we're using ChatGPT to help us again with that outline, and then filling in, giving it our information and to fill in as Matt pointed out, to help us then frame exactly what that book and what those different chapters will look like. So I think anytime we can use it for publishing, it's a magnificent tool that will just streamline our work for us.
That is fabulous. And I just saw another one that I have to call out. Matt is saying that they're looking to be a leader in AI for the nonprofit sector, being an expert or resource for other nonprofits. So Matt, we may need to call on you to have a further in-depth session based off of some of these comments where there's areas of interest in the data or even, further examples. So we will definitely connect offline so we can see how we can bring even more knowledge to the group. And before we sign off, Patrick, go right ahead. I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna, if it's okay, I don't mean this for promotional purposes, but it's very relevant, I think, to the call. A few months ago, I have a podcast that I host in the space of nonprofit leadership. And I interviewed ChatGPT. ChatGPT was my guest for one episode. And what I did is I asked the questions, I got the responses, and then I took the responses transcript and put them into an AI voice generator so that I gave ChatGPT a female voice. I went to AI's artificial imagery and created an image for, in this case, her. And I've just put the link in the chat for that episode. It's pretty fascinating. It's not perfect, but it's literally ChatGPT or AI was my guest for almost an hour about just getting ChatGPT's perspective on some nonprofit leadership issues and challenges.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Folks, we are at 2:59. Please join me in thanking Pat and Jasmine for speaking on this topic. And thank you all for your input, your thoughts, your comments. It was quite a vigorous conversation in chat and online. A couple of things. Housekeeping is as soon as you sign off, you will be asked to fill out an evaluation, and we would greatly appreciate if you provide some feedback so that we can continue to offer good content and also how we might improve webinars going forward. I want to remind you all, if you're not aware, that we have an upcoming planned giving session that's being hosted by DJ Hampton on April 25th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and it is on leveraging volunteers to impact results. So I hope that you will be able to join us. Caitlin has provided the link in the chat for you. So once again, please join me in thanking Pat and Jasmine, and also Caitlin for making these sessions work. You all have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So
Thanks,
good to be with
everyone.